3D in After Effects. That's what we're going to be covering in this lesson. Of course, you are awesome. And this is a quick example of what we're going to be showing you how to do, creating this animated swinging text that's actually swinging in 3D space. You can see that the text kind of flies on, it swings forward and backwards, and then it rotates around and spins around as if it was rotating in 3D space. This project file is available for you to download in this section so you can follow along, or you can build it from scratch. The other project we'll be working on, or the composition, is this 3D space composition. And this is using cameras, null objects, which we'll cover in just one of the future lessons, and multiple layers to create this 3D scene. How does 3D actually work in After Effects? Because we're not actually creating three-dimensional objects. That's not what After Effects is for. But we can place 2D objects in 3D space and do animations and movements like this to make it look as if we are building a 3D sort of set or 3D composition. All of these different icons and graphics are also available in the download folder if you want to follow along. So first, we're going to look at text to show you how 3D actually works in After Effects. Create a new composition. I'll just call this 3D text. 1920 by 1080 is fine. 5 seconds, perfect. I'm going to take my text tool and I'm going to type, and I'll just create some new text. Hello. And let's make this a little bit bigger. I don't see my tool, so let me click this button so I see the edges. And then I'll make this bigger. So see this button right here? This is the toggle mask and shape path visibility. So those are the edges, so to make sure I can see these little points to control it, and the anchor point as well. Let me align it to the center, just because I like doing that. All right, so up until now, we've been able to do different animations. We've been able to move our position to the left or right, up or down. We've been able to rotate around just in this flat, not 3D world. But there's this 3D cube icon that enables 3D layers for your composition. So check that on for this layer, and you'll see that a few different options pop up. First, press P, and you'll notice that a third number pops up. Well, the first and the second one, those are for our horizontal and vertical space. So that's our X and our Y axis. The third number is our Z axis, or our Z space. So if I click and drag this around, you can see that it's actually, well, it looks like it's just growing and shrinking, but it's actually moving forward and backwards. Think of it as this composition is your camera frame, and the hello text is moving forward or backwards. If I duplicate this, you'll understand this a little bit better. So let me just duplicate this text, press Command D. Now let's just change it so it's easier. Double click it, just write fill. Now, if I take the position, the Z position of the fill text and drag it to the right, it's actually pushing it back in 3D space. Let me change the color so you can see it a little bit better. Something like this pink, just so you can see. So now this fill text is actually sitting behind the hello text. And we can actually move it forward too if we want. So let me set it back to 0. And let's put it to a negative number. Now it goes in front of the hello text. So you can imagine using keyframes, you can create some pretty cool animations just with that. Let me turn this off for just a minute and then show you about rotation. Press R with the hello text selected, and you'll notice that we now have X and Y rotation. Z rotation is just that typical rotation. Of course, this is according to our anchor point too. And then we have our X rotation. So this flips it around that way, around the X axis, and then Y around the Y axis. So if we move our anchor point, so take our pan behind tool, move this up, let's center it. So pressing the Command key on a Mac, I lock it to the center, or it snaps to the center. Now we'll take our X rotation and it rotates like so. So you can create some pretty cool animations for having text pop on this way as well. And this goes for every layer, not just text, but if we put an image here, if we put, let's just take this actual Earth graphic that I provide. So if I take this Earth, scale it down, press S to bring up scale, scale it down to like 24 so it's all in the frame. Take our selection tool, put it right here in the middle, turn on our 3D layer, press R to bring up our rotations, and if we rotate, you can see that this is just a flat layer. It's nothing more than just a flat layer, and you can kind of see that it's split between our hello text. Cool, right? Okay, so I'm gonna do one more thing just to show you, to help you visualize what's actually going on. I'm going to add a camera. So go up to your Layer New menu. Remember, we used this menu to add solids in the past. Well, let's add a camera. This pops up with this camera menu. This goes a little bit more in depth and is very advanced. You can basically change your camera lens that you're using. You can change all kinds of things about your camera, your focal length, so that if you want a blurry background, you can do that by enabling depth of field, all kinds of stuff that we can go over in the future. But for now, just click OK. Nothing happens. But now, because we have this camera layer on our composition, we can use our camera tool up here. We haven't used this before, but now we can actually click in our composition and we could move around. So if I'm clicking and dragging, I'm just clicking and dragging, you can see that I'm moving around with a camera around our text. So this is, again, you can see how this 3D text kind of works. Let me undo that. Our camera tool has different properties. So if I click and drag, you can see that our position is changing, and we can animate these things, but there's actually a better way to animate your camera using a null object, which we'll go over in a future lesson. Another thing you can see once you have 3D enabled is a different view. So right now we have the main view of our composition. So this is how it actually will look for the video. But just for setting up your composition, you could change your view. So we can go on this menu where it says active camera to the top view. So now we see what's basically from up above, and you also see this red line up here. Let me zoom out to like 25% or even further, 6.25%. So you can't really see, it's kind of hard, but you see there's this triangle right here. This is basically the view of your camera. Imagine this at this point down here. This is your camera setup over here, and it's looking this way. And this line right here, this is what's in view of your camera. We can also add two views. So right now we're just seeing the one where we set right here. But if we choose two views, for example, we can see our main composition, the active camera, plus the top view. And this view is helpful just in case we want to move our Earth and be able to do it a little bit easier. So let me actually zoom in, fit up to 100%. Now using these arrows that are coming out of the anchor point, see, you can, it's kind of hard for you to see, but there's a little Y, and then there's an X that pops up, and then there's even a Z too. So if I take the Y, I can move it back like so. So now it's behind the hello text. Now if I take my camera tool and I rotate around our composition, you can see that the Earth is now behind our hello text. I know this is kind of confusing because you might be thinking, well, what is this view over here? Is this what it's going to look like when I export? No, that's not what it's going to look like when you export. What it is actually looking like is the active camera. So make sure that if you don't have the active camera up, if say you have the back camera or something like this, which shows from behind, make sure you're understanding that this isn't what it's going to actually look like. You can even have 4 views if you want. So if we do 4 views, let's do that. So now we see the vertical, we have the right, we have the front, the active camera. We can change these if we want. Just click on each box, and then on this drop down, you can change it. So maybe we want the bottom view, or maybe you want some sort of custom view. So if I take my custom view, and then I take my camera tool, I can rotate around, and now this is my custom view. At this point, you're probably really confused, and we're going to take a step back. We're going to animate our swinging text, and then we're going to move forward with our 3D space animation. So let's back up just a little bit, and in the next lesson, you're going to be following along with this project right here, which is a really cool effect for introducing and exiting text.